Finding the tomb of Alexander is the dream of every archaeologist. It's the Holy Grail.
For over 2,000 years, it was just a story. A tomb lost to time, buried beneath a city that grew right over it. But when a massive sarcophagus was found beneath the busy streets of modern Alexandria, everything changed. Scientists opened it. And what they discovered wasn't just strange, it was unsettling. Was this the answer to a mystery that had lasted for centuries, or the beginning of something even darker? One small, easily missed detail deep inside the tomb is now raising questions no one seems ready to face. This isn't only about ancient history, it's about what happens when the past won't stay hidden. The modern-day discovery. In July 2018, a regular construction job in the city Gabr area of Alexandria, Egypt, took a wild turn when workers uncovered a huge ancient structure hidden under the city's surface. While digging out the foundation for a new building, they struck something solid, what turned out to be the lid of a giant black granite sarcophagus. About 9 feet long, over 5 feet wide, and 6 feet tall, it weighed around 30 tons. The tomb had been sealed and untouched for over 2,000 years. Its size, location, and the fact that no one had opened it made it one of the biggest archaeological surprises Egypt had seen in years. Right away, the discovery sparked a storm of excitement and wild guesses. The site's location, right in ancient Alexandria, the city founded by Alexander the Great, fueled rumors that maybe, just maybe, his long-lost tomb had finally been found. News outlets everywhere ran bold headlines. Could this be where the legendary Macedonian leader was buried? Had the mystery of Alexander's missing tomb, unanswered for over 2 millennia, finally come to an end? Social media lit up with theories and excitement, while archaeologists and historians responded with a bit more caution. When Egypt's Ministry of Antiquities opened the sarcophagus, the moment everyone had waited for hit its peak. Inside, they found 3 human skeletons, completely unexpected. The remains of 2 men and 1 woman appeared to be soaked in a murky, brownish-red liquid. The smell from the sealed chamber was reportedly awful, likely a mix of years of water leakage, decayed matter, and maybe even sewage. At first glance, there were no markings, no objects, nothing that hinted at royal ties, no signs that this was the grave of anyone powerful or famous. That left researchers puzzled about who these people were and why they'd been buried in such a massive stone coffin. Still, even though nothing clearly linked this tomb to Alexander himself, the discovery left behind some big questions. Why go through the trouble of building such a huge sarcophagus if it wasn't for someone important? Was this an old burial site that had been reused for someone else much later? Someone whose story we don't know yet. Scientists collected samples of the mysterious fluid for testing, and while the internet had plenty of jokes about cursed juice, nothing supernatural has been confirmed, at least not yet. Although the tomb didn't solve the mystery of where Alexander was really buried, it did reignite public curiosity about ancient Alexandria. It reminded everyone just how much of the city's deep history is still hidden beneath the busy streets. As excitement over what had been found grew, even bigger questions surfaced, mainly about what had been lost and why no one had been able to find it after all this time. The disappearance of Alexander's tomb. For hundreds of years after Alexander the Great died in 323 BCE, his tomb was one of the most honored places in the ancient world. Records say his body was first buried in Memphis, Egypt, and then later moved to Alexandria, the city he dreamed would become a cultural center. Ancient writings describe the tomb as a huge and impressive structure, fit for someone who wasn't just a military genius, but who many saw as nearly godlike. It was likely open to the public, visited by emperors, leaders, and regular people who wanted to feel connected to one of the most powerful figures in history. For almost 600 years, the tomb stood as a symbol of greatness and of human limits. Roman rulers especially admired Alexander. Julius Caesar reportedly cried when he saw the body during his visit to Egypt in 48 BCE. Later, Augustus, Rome's first emperor, visited the tomb after defeating Mark Antony and Cleopatra. He's said to have ordered the body to be uncovered so he could look at it himself, and in the process accidentally broke part of the nose on the preserved corpse. That small moment shows how accessible the tomb still was back then. Other Roman leaders, including Caligula and Septimius Severus, are also thought to have visited. All these mentions tell us that Alexander's burial site was still a known, respected place deep into the Roman era. But then, in the 4th century A.D., the trail goes cold. Mentions of the tomb suddenly stop, and no one knows exactly why. Historians have puzzled over this strange silence for generations. Some theories suggest natural disasters, like earthquakes or flooding, might have damaged or buried the tomb. Others think it could have been hidden or destroyed as the Roman Empire turned toward Christianity. During that time, many older pagan temples were removed or repurposed, and maybe Alexander's tomb, as grand as it was, ended up caught in the middle of that sweeping change. The mystery only gets harder to solve when you consider how much Alexandria has changed in 2,000 years. New layers of construction have built up over the old ones, burying ancient landmarks beneath streets, homes, and neighborhoods. As the ancient capital turned into a modern city, any physical traces of Alexander's final resting place were likely covered over, demolished, or altered so much they're no longer recognizable. Even with decades of research, archaeologists and historians have never been able to point to a single confirmed location. The disappearance of the tomb remains one of archaeology's biggest unsolved puzzles, a story swallowed up by time, stone, and shifting empires. Alexander's death. Alexander the Great's sudden death in 323 BCE brought a shocking end to one of the most powerful military and political campaigns in history. Just 32 years old, he died in Babylon after falling seriously ill. Whether it was malaria, typhoid fever, or poison is still debated. What's known for sure is that he left no clear heir. His only possible successor was an unborn child carried by his wife Roxana, which meant no one had an obvious claim to lead. That power vacuum triggered a fierce struggle among his top generals, called the Diadochi, who quickly turned on each other to grab control of the vast empire that stretched from Greece all the way to India. What happened next was more than just a fight over land. It became a symbolic battle over Alexander's body. In the ancient world, having the remains of a great leader wasn't just about honor. It meant power. Alexander, who had been declared divine by the oracle at Siwa and treated as godlike by many while alive, was seen as more than a man. His remains held spiritual and political weight. Each general knew that whoever controlled the body could claim a piece of Alexander's authority. So instead of a peaceful funeral, the journey became part of the struggle for power. Though Alexander had asked to be buried at Siwa in Egypt, his body never made it there. A turning point came when Ptolemy, one of Alexander's most trusted generals and the man who would go on to rule Egypt, made a bold move. As the golden sarcophagus was being transported from Babylon, Ptolemy intercepted it in Syria and sent it to Memphis, Egypt's old capital. It wasn't an act of loyalty, it was a calculated takeover. By bringing Alexander's body into Egypt, Ptolemy didn't just honor him, he claimed part of his divine legacy. That helped him legitimize his rule not just through force, but through a spiritual connection to the fallen conqueror. Both Memphis and later Alexandria became the backdrop for Ptolemy's new dynasty, built under the long shadow of Alexander's memory. This political grab shaped how Alexander would be remembered. His legacy became a tool, one that others used to gain power long after his death. Turning the burial away from his chosen resting place wasn't just a break from his wishes, it marked the start of his transformation into a symbol. That image was then claimed, reshaped, and used by others to strengthen their own positions. By taking the body, Ptolemy took the myth, and with it founded a ruling dynasty that would last for nearly 300 years. Egypt, not Macedonia or Babylon, became the center of Alexander's posthumous legend. The burial that never happened. Of all the questions around Alexander's death, none carries more symbolic weight than the one about where he was really meant to be buried. Historical records suggest Alexander wanted to be laid to rest at the temple of Zeus Ammon in the Siwa oasis, a quiet, sacred spot deep in Egypt's western desert. Years before, he had made a long journey there to visit the oracle, a trip that left a lasting impact on how he saw himself. The oracle is said to have welcomed Alexander as the son of Zeus Ammon, reinforcing the divine status he had started to claim for himself. This wasn't just a flattering title, it became central to how he saw his life and legacy. Alexander didn't want to be remembered just as a powerful ruler or skilled commander. He saw himself as something greater, part human, part God. The temple at Siwa carried deep spiritual meaning for both Egyptians and Greeks. For Alexander, it felt like the perfect final resting place, a sacred site that connected the two worlds he had conquered and hoped to unite. Isolated in the desert and hard to reach, the sanctuary was rich in meaning and free from political baggage. There, among the dunes and the quiet of the desert, he could rest as both a man and a myth. A tomb at Siwa wouldn't just be a burial, it would be a lasting symbol of who he believed he was, a ruler touched by the divine. But when Alexander died, order gave way to ambition. The leaders he left behind weren't focused on his spiritual wishes, they were focused on power. His generals, eager to claim a part of his legacy, had little interest in following through on his burial plans. The funeral procession meant to carry him to Siwa was overtaken by Ptolemy, who redirected the body toward Egypt's political center, first to Memphis, then later to Alexandria. In doing so, Ptolemy denied Alexander the sacred resting place he had wanted, and instead used the body to build his own authority. What had once been about faith and legacy became about control and image. The quiet desert was replaced by a rising city, and Siwa faded into a forgotten side note in a rewritten story. That change in direction, from spiritual to strategic, has fueled centuries of mystery. People have often wondered, what if the body had made it to Siwa? Could the tomb have been hidden by time, or erased on purpose? To this day, historians and archaeologists keep digging through old writings and lost clues, hoping to uncover answers. The thought that Alexander might have been denied his chosen grave leaves the story feeling unfinished. As long as the real tomb remains lost, the mystery of Siwa lingers in the background, whispering of what was supposed to be, and never was. Clues hidden in Alexandria's underground. Beneath the crowded streets and neighborhoods of modern Alexandria, a quiet but determined search has been going on for years. Greek archaeologist Calliope Casta has led this effort, dedicating her career to finding the lost tomb of Alexander the Great. She heads the Hellenic Institute for the Research of Alexandrian Civilization, and unlike past attempts that hit walls or ran out of leads, her work stands out. She mixes careful study of history with the latest scientific tools to guide her search. Her attention is focused on an area once thought to be part of Alexandria's royal district, now buried under packed buildings and neglected public land. Papacosta's team uses advanced technology, especially a tool called electrical resistivity tomography, ERT. This non-invasive method lets researchers look underground without digging up streets or damaging buildings. ERT works by sending electrical currents into the ground to detect hidden features, things like tunnels, buried walls, chambers, or empty spaces that would normally stay hidden. In a city like Alexandria, where layers of construction have buried centuries of history under pavement and concrete, this kind of tech is incredibly helpful. By combining detailed surveying with careful excavation, her team has uncovered pieces of old architecture that point to massive structures still lying underground. One of the most striking finds was a partially preserved marble statue uncovered near the uneven terrain of Shalalat Gardens. This area is believed to sit above what once was the royal district of ancient Alexandria. The statue reflects classic Hellenistic style, with flowing robes, a proud stance, and a head turned slightly downward, all trademarks of that period. These artistic details also bring to mind the usual ways Alexander the Great was portrayed, with stylized hair and noble, idealized expressions. Papa Casta admitted that her heart was full the day it was found. "I prayed to God to see the way the hand turned," she said, quietly hoping it had once held a spear, an image closely tied to traditional depictions of Alexander. But beyond the statue, the layout of the area suggests something more complex. The position of nearby corridors, the discovery of water channels, and the site's closeness to what's thought to be a sacred pool all hint at a ceremonial space, possibly connected to divine or funerary rituals. In ancient times, water often played a symbolic role in funerals, used for purification and spiritual meaning. These details line up with known traditions from both Greek and Egyptian cultures. While no actual tomb has yet been uncovered, what Papa Casta has found points to something big. Either Alexander's burial site, or at least a major place where he was honored, could be hidden just beneath the feet of modern-day Alexandrians. While this site hinted at royal secrets beneath Alexandria, another discovery was about to offer something even stranger and far more disturbing: the black granite sarcophagus. In July 2018, the discovery of a massive black granite sarcophagus in Alexandria's Sidi Gabor district sparked worldwide interest. Unlike typical ancient coffins, this one was huge, over 9 feet long, nearly 6 feet tall, and weighing more than 30 tons. It had been sealed tightly with mortar and left untouched for more than 2,000 years. Its size and detailed craftsmanship hinted that it may have been made for someone important, or possibly even for multiple people. Found beneath a modern construction site, the sarcophagus's presence in a city so closely tied to Alexander the Great immediately set off a wave of speculation. When archaeologists from Egypt's Ministry of Antiquities opened the coffin, the contents were both unexpected and deeply unsettling. Instead of one important figure, they found 3 skeletons, 2 adult men and 1 older woman. Preliminary analysis showed that at least one of the skulls had signs of blunt force trauma, possibly from a sharp object or weapon. That led to theories that the people buried here might have been soldiers, executed prisoners, or victims of some violent event. The fact that 3 individuals were buried in such a large, carefully crafted sarcophagus only made the mystery deeper. It didn't match what experts normally expect from high-status burials in the late Ptolemaic or early Roman period. There were almost no personal items or markings to help explain who these people were. Inside the tomb, there were no inscriptions, no amulets or weapons, no crowns, no written texts. Just a few scraps of gold leaf, broken pottery, and bits of decayed cloth. These leftovers gave no real clues about the identity or status of the dead. Instead of a space filled with items of power and memory, the tomb felt empty and stripped of meaning, like it had been looted, reused quickly, or even made anonymous on purpose. The simple contents stood in sharp contrast to the size and quality of the sarcophagus, leaving experts wondering where it truly fits in the larger story. But what really grabbed attention was the reddish-brown liquid found at the bottom of the coffin. At first, people thought it might be embalming fluid, but tests later showed it was a mix of sewage water, groundwater, and decomposed body material. Even so, the look and smell of it were disturbing, and it didn't take long for the internet to jump in. People joked about it being cursed juice, warning that opening the tomb could release a plague. Others guessed it might have been some kind of failed preservation method. Tests continued, but none gave clear answers. And with no solid explanation, the mystery stayed alive, leaving some to wonder if the true meaning behind the black sarcophagus is still hidden underground. The Macedonian response. In northern Greece, not far from the ancient city of Amphipolis, another major tomb was uncovered in 2012. It didn't take long for it to grab the attention of archaeologists and historians from around the globe. Called the Casta tomb, it's the largest burial site ever found in Greece, and it dates back to the late 4th century BCE, right around the time of Alexander the Great's death. With a perimeter of nearly 500 meters, its size alone set it apart from other tombs of that era. From the beginning, its massive scale made some wonder if it could be connected to the Argead dynasty, Alexander's royal bloodline. As the dig went deeper, the tomb revealed a mix of architectural and artistic elements that were rarely seen together in one place. At the entrance, 2 large stone sphinxes stood guard, mythical creatures often linked to spiritual protection. Inside, 2 finely carved caryatids, female statues used as columns, marked another gateway, adding to the tomb's ceremonial feel. A beautifully detailed mosaic was also uncovered, showing the story of Persephone being taken by Hades, a myth tied to death, rebirth, and the passage to the underworld. These weren't random decorations. The artistic choices inside the Casta tomb pointed to something deeply symbolic, possibly religious, possibly royal. They echoed the mythic identity Alexander had built for himself during his life. Archaeologists became even more intrigued when they entered the inner chamber, where they found the remains of 5 individuals. An elderly woman over 60, 2 younger men between 35 and 45, a newborn child, and a 5th person who had been cremated. Also discovered were bits of gold decoration, weapon fragments, and pieces of a wooden coffin. The variety in the burials suggested this could have been a family tomb, or one that had been reused over time. Still, the mix of burial and cremation in the same sacred space was very unusual for the time and raised tough questions about who these people were and why they were buried together. What truly stood out were the references to symbols tied to the Argead dynasty, the ruling family of Alexander the Great. Images of stars, rosettes, and Macedonian shields were found on the walls, all strongly linked to Alexander's royal heritage. While there's no solid agreement among scholars about who exactly is buried there, most believe it could be someone from Alexander's closest circle, possibly his mother Olympias, his companion Hephaestion, or a high-ranking general. There's no hard proof tying it directly to Alexander himself, but the tomb's wealth, symbolism, and time period keep it high on the list of possible links to the Macedonian legacy. Unsealing the tomb. In a quiet but startling development, a highly restricted excavation in Alexandria reportedly led to the opening of an alabaster sarcophagus, unlike anything previously found in the area. It was sealed tightly with a thick amber-colored resin and had no inscriptions or markings of any kind. The coffin was discovered far below ground, in a part of the city long believed to hide remnants of its ancient royal district. The secrecy surrounding the dig, very limited press coverage, no official reports, and heavy government control immediately triggered rumors that something big had been uncovered. Whispers from sources close to the project hinted that this find could be tied to one of history's greatest unsolved mysteries, the lost tomb of Alexander the Great. Inside the alabaster sarcophagus was the incredibly well-preserved body of a man, believed to be in his early 30s, the same age Alexander was when he died. Leaked reports from unnamed sources claimed the body showed signs of a warrior's life, a healed leg fracture, deep scars along the ribs, and most notably, an old wound at the base of the neck. These injuries match what historical accounts say Alexander suffered during his many battles, including a near-fatal hit in India. Although no official DNA results have been released, the physical clues alone were enough to create a shockwave in archaeological circles and spark serious questions about whether the search had finally come to an end. What made the find even more mysterious was the condition of the body itself. It appeared to have been embalmed using a method far more advanced than anything known from the late 4th century BCE. Experts called it a hybrid technique, combining known Egyptian mummification practices with what might be an unknown chemical preservative, something not documented in any ancient sources. The remarkable level of preservation has raised the possibility that this embalming method was either an experimental technique or one created for a very specific reason, possibly to honor someone of deep significance. The resin used to seal the sarcophagus contained compounds not typically found in burials of that time, but were sometimes linked with royal entombments. This has led some to believe the method may have been designed to protect or even conceal the body from future discovery or harm. But maybe the most fascinating part was the artifacts buried with the body. Among the few surviving items was a gold diadem with a distinct royal design. Even more striking was a medallion showing Zeus Ammon, the same god Alexander claimed as his divine father after his journey to the Siwa oasis. These clues have led some experts to suggest that this tomb may have been built, or later altered, to honor or possibly hide someone thought to be of divine origin. There's been no official confirmation yet, but the discovery has reignited the worldwide debate. Was this truly the lost tomb of Alexander the Great? Or has someone known the truth all along? The cover-up. After the preserved body was found in the alabaster sarcophagus during the secretive Alexandria dig, rumors began to swirl about efforts to keep the findings quiet. Early internal reports hinted that DNA samples had been collected and compared to genetic material from Macedonian royal tombs. According to some insiders, the tests showed notable similarities, perhaps even a connection to the Argead dynasty, the royal family of Alexander himself. But just as interest hit its peak and the world waited for answers, all information stopped. No updates came, and those working on the project stopped speaking to the press altogether. The silence didn't go unnoticed. Within a few months of the discovery, outside access to the site was completely cut off, and the area was resealed under heavy security. Foreign researchers who asked to help analyze the findings received no response or were simply turned away. This lack of openness only fueled more speculation that the discovery might carry serious political or historical weight. Some believe that confirming Alexander's final resting place could spark debates over cultural ownership, not just between Egypt and Greece, but across the entire academic and archaeological world. Others think the implications might go even deeper, possibly shaking long-held ideas tied to empires, ancient belief systems, or national pride. And adding to it all are rumors of another sealed chamber, supposedly located near the main burial room. Leaked scan images hint at a space that remains unopened. No one can say for sure why. Some claim structural problems have made it too risky to explore further. Others believe the delay comes from bureaucracy, or a cautious decision to move forward only with a united global team of experts. Still, the idea that one last chamber remains untouched beneath Alexandria, possibly hiding more artifacts, ancient documents, or even another set of remains, has drawn intense interest from scholars and media across the globe. Many wonder if this unopened vault could be the final place holding undeniable proof of Alexander's burial and the true story behind what happened to his body. The lack of official communication has only added to public suspicion and stirred up conspiracy theories. Some now believe that this is an intentional effort to stall or bury findings that could challenge accepted history or even create political tension. While Egyptian authorities haven't made any official statements about the growing concerns, their silence on the matter has become louder than any press release ever could. Even though the site has been locked down and questions have been left hanging, the possible impact of what may have been discovered is just starting to reach beyond the tomb itself. Legacy and consequence. If the real tomb of Alexander the Great has been found, it would be far more than just another archaeological headline. It could completely shift how we see ancient history, and even how modern nations view their cultural identities. Alexander's death in 323 BCE ended a military campaign unlike anything the world had seen. But the mystery of his burial has stayed with us, leaving a blank space in the records. If the tomb is real and confirmed, it might finally give clear answers about how he died, how he was honored, and what those final rites looked like. More than that, it would push historians to re-examine what we thought we knew about that era. It might even challenge some of the long-held beliefs about the Hellenistic world and the legacy it left behind. The legend of Alexander has never really disappeared. Over the centuries, from the Renaissance to today, leaders, thinkers, and rulers have pointed to him as a model of greatness and power. He's deeply tied to the national stories of Greece and North Macedonia, and plays a big role in the histories of Egypt and Persia too. His legacy has helped shape entire empires and military strategies still studied now. If his tomb is truly found, it could spark debates over cultural heritage and who has the right to tell his story. Some experts and faith leaders say that opening Alexander's tomb might do more than prove what's in old texts. It could challenge the beliefs that have formed around him, especially those blending real history with ideas of divine status. Alexander's story sits in that rare space between what was real and what people believed about gods and kings. And if his burial space does show clear signs of divine rituals or symbols, it might even change how we understand ancient ideas of godhood and how they echo in later traditions. Then again, some say digging up these answers might only break the myth apart, leaving us with nothing more than a skeleton and a story lost to time. If you found this story as fascinating and unsettling as we did, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more deep dives into history's greatest mysteries. Got thoughts about Alexander's tomb or your own theory to share? Drop it below. We're reading every one. And don't go anywhere. Click the next video on your screen to keep exploring the secrets the ancient world left behind.